Public discourse has hit a new low recently because all of our nervous systems are dysregulated. We're experiencing narcissistic abuse en masse from our current administration. And basically, if you line up the symptoms of nervous dysregulation and the consequences of dealing with narcissistic abuse, you will literally get a very clear picture of exactly what is happening in the US right now regarding discourse, regarding parasocial relationships, regarding like writing fan fiction on the internet about creators that you don't really know in real life just because they had a take that you didn't agree with or even genuinely had a bad take. But the reason all this is happening is because so many nervous systems are all dysregulated at once, and we are just seeing the literal outcomes of that. And all of this is basically people experiencing America as a failed state for the first time in their lives. I want to be clear that I really am mostly talking about white people and people in the more privileged tax brackets, because frankly, America has always been a failed state for Black people and other people of color. So that is really nothing new to that community, which is why, unfortunately, they are mostly on the receiving end of this, because when our nervous system is regulated, once again, it goes into protective mode. It goes into almost like authoritarian mode. It starts viewing differing opinions as threats and not as opinions. And there's basically this phenomena that happens with your nervous system when it's just being like wrecked and abused and basically taken out for a roller coaster ride every single day. Like you just don't know what you're going to wake up to. You don't know what's going to be the state of things when you fall asleep. Like you just literally don't know. An interesting phenomenon happens that actually has your nervous system reacting to small things as if they're really big and basically disassociating when actually big things are happening. And I can think of nothing more fitting than the current state of like online discourse. And that is actually the exact goal of narcissistic abuse. It's to throw off your instincts. It's to throw off your perception of things and have you thinking that it's the little things that matter. Have you thinking that it's the things that your next door neighbor does that matter more than what the corrupt people at the top are doing every single day, to the tune of like literally stealing money out of our pockets, like literally profiting off of our sickness and death and stress and all that kind of stuff. Like they are literally harvesting your energy in this way because it's precisely when they can get you into that state of like disassociation and at the same time like hyper focus on little things that are frankly none of your business. That's when they win. That's when they can seriously start getting away with whatever the fuck they want. It's exactly the trap that we have fallen into en masse. I think my hypothesis even explains the phenomenon that several creators have mentioned about fan fiction being written about them and spread around in the comments. That's exactly what an authoritarian government does to justify doing horrible things to people who step out of line. And that is basically what's happening. The fan fiction people are writing, the stuff that people are assuming about content creators, is basically to justify dragging them. It's basically to justify an outsized and inappropriate level of response to somebody just posting their thoughts on the internet like an essay. Now, why is that happening? Like, why do people feel so upset about people on the internet like saying some dumb random shit or like having the wrong take? That part comes back to, again, your nervous system protecting you and focusing on the things that you can control, or at least focusing on giving you an illusion of control while you have basically no solid ground to stand on as far as your future goes, as far as wages go, as far as home ownership goes. Like watching all of these things kind of like slowly trickle through their fingers, watching the promise of the American dream like fade out of reality, etc. Like a lot of people are realizing that a lot of things are out of their control. And basically what then becomes an immediate threat is how much your neighbor has. We turn into crabs in a bucket real quick. Ask any Eastern European. Ask people who have been experiencing America as a failed state for their entire history, right? How does their community feel about people making it out? And is there any type of crab in a bucket behavior? And it's like we're all just experiencing this en masse for the first time, but the only people that it's really happening for the first time to is the privileged sector of like white Americans. Otherwise, everybody knows what this feels like, and most communities have found their own different and unique ways of dealing with it, whereas like white privileged Americans are still figuring that out. Moral of the story is, when you are suffering from loss of control, when you're suffering from narcissistic abuse, when you're suffering from nervous system dysregulation, everything starts to look like a threat, especially the people closest to you. And what your nervous system's going to do is going to start evaluating every single thing and person in your life as a possible threat. Not to mention apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of that are also responsible for a different type of nervous system dysregulation. Basically, at this point, we're all in this like endless loop where entertainment's not really entertainment, where entertainment and like people's thoughts and opinions have become the outsized, small thing that we can control. And the fact that our entire country is slipping into an authoritarian regime ruled and run by a narcissistic dictator has become a thing that we are just desensitized to, because again, that's how your nervous system is going to protect itself. It's going to focus on what it can control. It's going to focus on the things that are within your reach, and those things are your peers. You're basically turning to things that have no accountability in order to feel like you do at least have some power to influence somebody's life somehow. A very sad and dangerous place to be. Again, just ask any Eastern European, like, is it fun living over there? No. That's why people are like, yeah, when you go to Europe, like, don't smile at people because you're going to get your ass beat. Like, that's basically the kind of behavior that this type of social policing leads to. Because again, trust me, I grew up with this. I grew up with people being very unceremonious. Like, I did not grow up in polite society. And when I first came to America, I was very shocked by how sort of passive everybody was, and kind of like, oh yeah, like live and let live. Like, it's all good, whatever. And I was like, wow, that's like brand new to me, because where I come from, everybody cares very much what other people are doing, because that's like the way that we protect ourselves, because we know that we can't count on our systems, governments, institutions, etc. Privileged Americans are learning this lesson right now the hard way. That's basically always going to be the outcome of a failed state. People are going to turn to like peer policing each other, criticizing each other, trying to have outcomes that affect each other viscerally, physically. They will take pride in that. And it gets very, very scary. I think obviously it's worse the second time around, because I think the first time a lot of people genuinely thought that Trump winning and becoming president and all that was like just such a crazy fluke and something that couldn't be repeated, like something that happened in a vacuum, whatever. And now that people are seeing like this shit is real, this type of authoritarian government structure might actually be here to stay. People's nervous systems are kicking on to protect them from threats. Those threats have become their own neighbors. This is exactly what happened during Nazi Germany. This is exactly that they were able to pit people against each other with this lack mindset of only some of us can win. There's not enough for everybody to go around. You need to look out for yourself, and like nobody's looking out for you, and this is a meritocracy, and government shouldn't be like feeding or clothing or housing people, etc. And by the way, if your government is not doing that, then they are an authoritarian government. Then there's no other reason for them to be there. The government is actually supposed to prevent society from collapsing, right? Which is what they're doing when they're clothing and feeding and housing people. If you don't do that, then society will collapse, because there's no social safety net. The only people that societal collapse benefits are psychopaths, sociopaths, sadists, narcissists, billionaires, and basically anybody else who can profit off of other people's suffering, misery, and misfortune. Those are the only people that are eagerly waiting on society to collapse. And that's why they're feeding this whole like meritocracy narrative and this whole like no more handouts kind of narrative. Government help has never been handouts. There's a reason why it's called a social safety net. Once again, the government is supposed to prevent societal collapse. When it's not doing that, then an authoritarian is in charge. Again, you can ask any Eastern European about this. You are living in a failed state, okay? Welcome. To all the content creators out there, I wish I could tell you that this is going to get better, but we'll have to wait and see, because again, my experience doesn't really transfer super easily, because for the most part, the people that I interacted with in my day-to-day life were also white. We all sort of belong to the same like social social caste system. This is different in America, so we'll have to see how those dynamics play out. And I think it's been very clear how those dynamics are playing out, because all of the content creators that I've seen who are talking about I've been harassed, had fan fiction written about me, etc., they have all so far been Black men and women. The brunt of the consequences of everybody being abused at the same time always falls on marginalized people, whether it be women, whether it be people of color, whether it be disabled people, the LGBTQ community. The brunt of our social policing and nervous system dysregulation always falls on the marginalized communities. And in order to justify that, the authoritarian government in charge will usually write horrible fan fiction about these communities, again, in order to justify their oppression and their demise, basically. You see a lot of that happening right now. And so, yeah, please stay safe out there. I love you so much. Godspeed.